Jordan. What brings you here at this hour? When I opened the front door after the intercom rang, I found my grandson, Jordan, standing there completely soaked. As Jordan looked down and turned around, I saw his sister, Alice, soundly asleep on his back. I gently took Alice into my arms. Please, could you let Alice stay for dinner and the night? Jordan's voice was almost drowned out by the sound of the heavy rain. Come inside for now, I urged. My husband and I led Jordan and Alice into the house. Seeing our grandson for the first time in 3 years, we couldn't help but marvel at how much he had grown. Contrary to our warm feelings, Jordan sat in front of the meal we had prepared without touching it, his gaze fixed downwards. Jordan, can you tell us what happened? Jordan briefly looked up, but quickly averted his eyes when our gazes met. Jordan, we can't help if you don't talk to us. My husband said, his tone growing firmer out of frustration. Startled, Jordan then began to speak in a voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. After pouring his heart out, Jordan made a resolute statement. I'd be a nuisance if I stayed. Please take care of Alice, he pleaded. With those words, Jordan stood up and dashed towards the entrance. Hey, wait. My husband tried to stop him, but Jordan, now nearly as tall as him, shrugged him off. Don't be ridiculous. I can't take care of a child. Furious, my husband spat out those words before chasing after Jordan again and grabbing him in a tight hold. Please, at least take care of Alice. Jordan pleaded, giving up his struggle and hanging his head low. My name is Linda. I live with my husband, Steve. Looks like it's going to rain this evening. Every morning, Steve would mutter about the day's weather while flipping through the newspaper and munching on bread, laid out on top of it. Come on, I always tell you not to dirty the newspaper. Either read it or eat. Linda, it might be best to do in the morning if you want to jog outside. He said, clearly not listening to me. This is the usual scene at our home. Steve, 2 years my senior at 62, is facing retirement this year. With no hobbies to speak of, he has always been all about his work. I've heard of people suddenly getting dementia or becoming recluses when they stop working. We need to find something for him to get into before it's too late. I remembered discussing this with a colleague at my part-time job. Steve, what are you going to do with all the free time once you stop working next year? Well, I don't know. He pondered, glancing around before his eyes settled on a photo displayed on the shelf. It was a picture of me and Steve, our son Brian, his wife Emily, and our grandchildren, Jordan and Alice. All smiling warmly. It was taken during Alice's first birthday celebration. I wonder how Jordan and Alice are doing. Steve suddenly asked. I'm not sure. We haven't seen our son's family in about 3 years. They live about an hour's drive from us. A distance that should make visits easy, yet it seems Emily has been avoiding us. And influenced by her, Brian has become quite distant as well. Even when I send emails saying, let's meet up, we're always turned down, and they don't even return our Christmas cards. Jordan loves fish, didn't him? Yeah. I remember him saying, let's go fishing together. Really? When did they make such a promise? But it's true, Jordan adored Steve. I'm flooded with memories of Jordan from when he was still in elementary school. We promised to go together once I retired, since I'd have plenty of time. Well, Jordan is in his first year of high school now, maybe he's realized that catching fish isn't that simple. Steve said this with a wistful smile, sipping his coffee. It was clear that our relationship with our son's family changed after Brian remarried Emily 5 years ago. After graduating high school, Brian started working at a construction company, where he met Claire, an office worker 4 years his senior, and they got married. Jordan was their child. Claire, with her calm and steady presence, seemed to guide Brian in the right direction. I was taken aback the first time I saw Brian, who hardly ever did household chores at home, skillfully making soup. I was always grateful to her for marrying Brian, but she would just laugh and shake her head whenever I thanked her. Brian is so straightforward. When I showed him how I cut carrots with a knife in my left hand, he tried to do the same. Even though he's right-handed. Oh my. Thanks to Brian, our home is always filled with laughter. It seemed like the 3 of them were living happily, which made me happy. Sorry for asking you to pick up Jordan from daycare on such short notice the other day. Here, these are your favorite sweets. That's so sweet of you, but you don't need to worry about it. I'm free after 4 p.m. from my part-time job, so I can always pick him up. Thank you so much. She was always polite and maintained a good relationship with us. I thought this happy life would continue forever. When Jordan was 9, Claire was diagnosed with cancer. The cancer was advanced, and she was given 6 months to live. Please forgive me, and take care of Jordan. She said this to me when we were alone in her hospital room. Don't apologize. I wish I could take your place. I was close to tears. I've been so happy these past 10 years. Brian and Jordan have made me laugh enough for a lifetime. I want them to keep smiling, always. You and Steve too. She said this with a gentle smile. And just as the doctors predicted, she passed away quietly on a crisp autumn day. After that, Brian and Jordan started their life as just the two of them, but since Brian often came home late due to work, I started visiting Jordan's house every day after my part-time job. On weekends, if Brian was busy, we happily took care of Jordan at our place. Do you want to go anywhere? Let's go wherever you and Grandpa want to go. Jordan was never selfish and often observed the adults around him. I was a bit worried about his tendency to be considerate towards us, his grandparents. We should keep a close eye on Jordan. Yes, we should. So, when Jordan occasionally said, I wanted to eat fish, during our shopping trips, we were delighted to hear his honest thoughts. Actually, I'm thinking about getting remarried. Brian told us this when Jordan was 11. The woman was a 23-year-old named Emily. Emily was 10 years younger than Brian and worked part-time at a bar. It seems they hit it off when Brian happened to visit the bar. I was worried, but when Brian brought her home, my concerns only deepened. Nice to meet you all. Emily arrived wearing a baggy sweatshirt, a miniskirt, large earrings, and carrying a designer bag. She was beautiful but seemed to lack common sense, perhaps due to her youth. You're only 23, right? If you marry Brian, you'll suddenly become the mother of an 11-year-old. Are you sure you're ready for that? I asked her seriously. We'll figure it out, right? Yeah, I think we'll be fine. The casual exchange between Emily and Brian made Steve and me exchange worried glances. Despite our reservations, we couldn't voice our concerns, and 2 months later, Brian remarried. Could we live in the house your brother used to live in? We want to save money for our child's future. When Steve's brother's family moved abroad 4 years ago, he told Steve he could use their old house however he liked. And the ownership was transferred to my husband. Steve had intended to rent out the house but had neglected it due to his busy schedule. It would help us if you lived there. But you know, it's in a different school district, so Jordan will have to transfer schools. That's okay. He'll adjust to the new school quickly. And so, they moved to the house owned by Steve, about an hour's drive from ours, and started their life as a family of 3. Until then, I had seen Jordan almost every day, but once Emily quit her job to become a full-time homemaker, I no longer needed to visit Jordan's house, and our opportunities to meet dwindled. Still, Brian would leave Jordan with us about 3 times a month. Though the reason was that Brian and Emily wanted to spend time alone, we were happy to be with Jordan. Jordan, despite being a child, seemed to be considerate of Brian and Emily, which worried me. Jordan, are you enjoying your new life? Yeah, it's fun. I was sad to transfer from my elementary school, but I've made new friends. It must have been tough for him, having to transfer schools because of his parents' decisions. I wanted to ask about his relationship with Emily, but I hesitated to mention her by name and didn't pursue it further. All right then. Let's go to a hamburger restaurant with us today. Really? Yay. I'm going to eat lots. Seeing Jordan smile without a care in the world brought me some relief. A year later, Alice was born. We want to throw a party to introduce Alice. We want to celebrate her half-birthday. Brian and Emily began asking for money on every occasion, using Alice as an excuse. We never did this when Jordan was her age. Although it made me feel conflicted. For the sake of adorable Alice and also to give Jordan some pocket money, I sent them a generous amount whenever they reached out. Once Alice was a bit older, Brian and Emily often left both children with us. We need a break once in a while. You must be happy to spend so much time with your grandchildren. After handing over the children at the doorstep, Brian and Emily would quickly leave. Watching them go left me with mixed feelings, but seeing Jordan, Alice, and Steve playing together in the room warmed my heart. Jordan adored his younger sister and took great care of Alice. Alice, in turn, seemed to trust Jordan completely, calming down even when upset if Jordan sang to her gently. While we were concerned about Brian and Emily, we were very happy to spend time with our grandchildren. However, after Alice's first birthday, Jordan and Alice stopped coming over altogether. Jordan is in middle school now, maybe he's just busy. With that thought, I called Brian. I'll be in the area this Sunday. Can I stop by to see you? Let me check with Emily. The conversation ended abruptly, and a curt text followed stating, "We have plans, so it won't be possible." Despite my efforts to reach out to Brian and Emily repeatedly, they always found excuses to prevent us from seeing Jordan and Alice. Did I say something to upset them? I thought I had always been supportive, offering financial help and taking care of the grandchildren whenever asked. All we could do was hope for Jordan and Alice's happiness. 3 years passed. Jordan became a first-year high school student, and Alice turned 4. On a day when not seeing my grandchildren had become the norm, I happened to spot Jordan. That day, I was going to the next town to watch a movie with a friend. Around 5 p.m., while waiting for the bus, a bike swiftly passed by in front of me, and it was Jordan. He was wearing a square backpack with the name of a chain restaurant, seemingly making deliveries. Jordan. I called out his name in surprise, but he didn't look back. Could you have mistaken him for someone else? I immediately shared the story with my Steve upon returning home, but he was hesitant to believe it. I couldn't possibly mistake our grandson's face. But, a high school student working a delivery job. Is Brian not earning enough? I don't know. We've been sending $500 to each of the grandchildren for their birthdays, but maybe that's not enough for Jordan. Even though we couldn't see them, I had assumed that Brian's family was happily living their lives somewhere we didn't know about. However, seeing Jordan that day brought a surge of anxiety. And then, 2 weeks later, something shocking happened. It was on a day of heavy rain. There's a heavy rain and thunderstorm warning from noon today. Be careful when you come back from your part-time job. As usual, Steve mentioned this while eating breakfast and reading the newspaper. Just as he said, the weather turned terrible in the afternoon. Steve also came home soaked around 8 p.m. The heavy rain pounded on the roof, making the TV hard to hear. Shall we go to bed soon? Just as we were about to head to the bedroom, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this hour? When I checked the monitor, Jordan's face, looking down, was displayed. Steve. It's Jordan. We hurriedly opened the door. There stood Jordan, completely drenched. Jordan. What brings you here at this hour? Then, Jordan turned around, still looking down. Is Alice with you? I took Alice, who had been asleep on Jordan's back, into my arms. Please, could you let Alice stay for dinner and the night? Jordan muttered, with rain dripping from his bangs. Come inside, quickly. I took Alice, and Steve led Jordan into the house. Alice was wearing a raincoat, and Jordan must have sacrificed his own dryness to keep her dry with an umbrella. She wasn't wet at all despite the heavy rain. Since Alice was sound asleep, we decided to let her sleep in the bedroom as is. Meanwhile, we had Jordan head straight to the shower, being all soaked. I prepared some warm food while he was taking a shower. It's Steve's, so it might be a bit big. No, maybe not. Jordan, you've grown so much since we last saw you. In the rush of the moment, I hadn't really taken it in, but even Alice, who had been a baby the last time I saw her, had grown incredibly. We marveled at the growth of our grandchildren, whom we hadn't seen in 3 years. Contrary to our warm feelings, Jordan sat in front of the meal we had prepared without touching it, his gaze fixed downwards. Jordan, can you tell us what happened? Jordan briefly looked up, but quickly averted his eyes when our gazes met. Jordan, we can't help if you don't talk to us. Steve said, his tone growing firmer out of frustration. Startled, Jordan then began to speak in a voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. I'm not liked by Mom. According to Jordan, Emily had never been fond of him from the beginning. Despite this, Jordan was initially happy to have a mother figure and tried hard to be liked by Emily. However, after Alice was born, Emily's attitude towards Jordan became even colder. I really love Alice, you know. She's my sister after all. But Mom could say to me without batting an eye that she wouldn't take care of me because we're not blood related. Dad also took Mom's side and didn't help me at all. The revelations made my heart clench. I had thought they were happily living as a family of 4. I deeply regretted my naive assumptions. Why didn't you come to our house sooner? Because I thought you two hated us. Jordan started to cry. According to him, Emily had told him that we stopped coming around because we didn't want to take care of our grandchildren. No. Wasn't it Emily who didn't let us see them? I wanted to argue, but Jordan continued talking through his tears. Today, Mom didn't prepare dinner for me again. And then Alice stood up for me. Angry that her own daughter sided with Jordan and betrayed her, Emily, in a fit of anger during the heavy rain, kicked Jordan and Alice out. You remembered where we live, huh? Steve patted Jordan's head. I ran out of money after buying an umbrella and a raincoat for Alice. I took the train as far as I could, then walked the rest of the way here. That's why it's so late. I'm sorry. No, Jordan, you have nothing to apologize for. If I stay, I'll be a nuisance. Please take care of Alice. Jordan said this and then ran towards the entrance. Hey, wait. Steve tried to stop him, but Jordan, now as tall as him, shrugged him off. Don't be ridiculous. I can't take care of a child. Furious, Steve spat those words before chasing after Jordan again and restraining him. Please, at least take care of Alice. Jordan stopped struggling and hung his head low. Catching up to them, I took Jordan from Steve and, while stroking his back, said, Jordan, you've got it all wrong. We've always wanted to see you. But Brian and Emily wouldn't let us. Really? For the first time, Jordan looked me straight in the eye. I explained everything to Jordan to clear up the misunderstanding, how we had tried numerous times to visit. How we sent money to Emily for Jordan and Alice's birthdays because we couldn't see them. And everything else that had happened over the last 3 years. Jordan looked surprised throughout the explanation. But he seemed to believe my words, and the look of despair on his face was replaced by a healthier complexion. I didn't know anything about the money, too. I think Mom must have been using it for herself. I was stunned by the revelation. Jordan further shared that he had managed to receive tuition for high school but got nothing for lunch or school supplies. So he had to work part-time to scrape together some money. The part-time job of deliveries? Did you know? I saw someone who looked like you delivering food the other day. I called out, but you rode past on your bike without noticing. Jordan nodded sadly. Since I started high school, Mom stopped making dinner for me. I chose that place because they provide meals, so I could save on dinner. But today, I unexpectedly had no shifts, and sure enough, when I got home, there was no dinner prepared for me. Then Alice stood up for me. Tears started to well up in Jordan's eyes again. It's all right now. I continued to soothe Jordan's back. Was Brian also cold to you? Steve asked, barely containing his anger. Yeah. He just does whatever Mom says. I liked my previous mom better. Dad used to be kinda back then. With that, Jordan burst into loud sobs. Steve was at a loss for words. For a while, only Jordan's crying filled the house, but as he began to calm down, Steve finally spoke. Jordan, what I said earlier about don't be ridiculous was directed at Brian and the others, not you. We will definitely protect Alice and you. That's right. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. Oh, has Alice woken up? I glanced towards the living room door and saw Alice peeking around the corner with a wary expression. Alice, do you remember us? Alice shook her head vigorously. Steve and I exchanged a wry smile. That makes sense, the last time we met was on your first birthday. Look, I said, showing her a photo from the birthday party that was displayed in our house. Alice's face lit up at the sight. Then she ran over to Jordan. Jordan. What's up? I'm hungry. Steve and I looked at each other again and smiled. All right, I'll warm up the food again, so both of you eat up. Jordan, please share some with Alice. You know her best. Alice waking up seemed to bring a small smile back to Jordan's face. The two of them happily ate their meal and soon fell asleep together in bed, cozy and close. As I watched their innocent sleeping faces, I had to hold back tears. After all the hardship they'd faced, it was our duty now to protect Jordan and Alice. With this resolve, Steve and I got into the car and headed straight to Brian's house. The lights were still on inside, and when we rang the doorbell, Brian came out. Wait a minute. Ignoring Brian's protests, we made our way inside. In the room, empty alcohol cans littered the table, and Emily was lounging on the sofa, laughing giddily with a beer in hand as she watched TV. What are you doing here at this hour, Steve and Linda? What do you mean, what are we doing here? Remember what you've done. Steve shouted, causing Emily to flinch. Initially surprised, Emily set down her beer can and glared at us defiantly after sitting up straight. So, Jordan and Alice went to your place. They came soaking wet. It seems you've been lying to them, telling them we didn't like them. And the money we've been sending for them as pocket money hasn't been reaching them at all. What were you thinking? We are their parents. It's none of your business. Brian said, sitting down beside Emily, both of them staring us down. They blamed us for believing everything Jordan said. The parental rights for Jordan and Alice belong to us. We don't want outsiders interfering. We've been raising them properly, Emily said. Properly? You've been treating Jordan like he's an inconvenience. Just then, the doorbell rang again. Who's next? Muttering, Brian went to open the door, only to find two police officers standing there. Yes, I had called the police from the car and asked them to come to Brian's house. Without hesitation, the officers entered and began looking for the children. Where are Jordan and Alice in this heavy rain? Of course, Brian and Emily couldn't answer that. I explained everything that had happened today in front of everyone. You'll need to come with us to the station for questioning, one officer said to Brian and Emily. And so, they were taken to the police station. The next day, we were also called in for questioning. Jordan was interviewed alone, while I was allowed to be present with Alice due to her young age. Mommy and Daddy ignore my brother. They don't even make dinner for him. My brother goes to school during the day and works hard at night. I want to help my brother. The 4-year-old Alice earnestly explained. Despite her young age, Alice too was hurt by the abnormal family situation. Tears welled up in my eyes. Alice looked at me curiously. Why are you crying? The police officers are like heroes of justice, Mrs. Parker at the daycare said so. They'll definitely help us. Ha ha, you're right. Everything will be okay, now. Please take care of it. Alice said to the police officer with a bright smile. After the grandchildren's testimonies were taken, it was our turn to be called in. We'd like to discuss the future of your grandchildren. We expressed our desire not to return Jordan and Alice to their parents under any circumstances and our intention to take full responsibility for raising them. The police advised us to consult with a lawyer. Following their advice, we reached out to Michael, a lawyer acquaintance of Steve. 5 days later, Michael went to speak with Brian and Emily, who were in custody. He discussed the following 4 points with them. First, our intention to adopt Jordan and Alice to gain their custody. Second, a prohibition on any future contact with Jordan and Alice by Brian and Emily. Third, no further assistance from us. Fourth, the house they were living in was scheduled for demolition next month, and they needed to vacate immediately. Brian and Emily initially reacted with fury. Don't you have any parental feelings? Brian shouted. To which Michael calmly replied. Jordan is your biological child, isn't he? Do you think someone who treats their own child so harshly has the right to say that? Brian was left speechless by Michael's sound argument. Eventually, the adoption of Jordan and Alice by us was finalized, and we have been raising them with love, enjoying peaceful days. Despite Brian's repeated objections to the demolition of the house, the scheduled demolition went ahead. When the house was demolished in front of him, Brian reportedly collapsed to his knees and couldn't get up for a while. Furthermore, rumors of abuse circulated at his workplace, leading to unauthorized absences and eventual dismissal. Thus, Brian and Emily ended up penniless. For a while, they lived quietly somewhere, but then Brian approached me asking for help. "I'll report you to the police if you keep pestering us." After that warning, he seemed to give up and became silent. Since then, I've had no information about them. Meanwhile, Jordan and Alice, initially tense after moving in with us, gradually relaxed as we spent more time together. Jordan quit his job and focused on his studies and club activities, happily attending school every day. "Grandpa, what time are we leaving tomorrow?" "The tide is full at 8 a.m., so we leave at 3 a.m. "If I'm not up by then, wake me up." "What kind of plan is that?" Having retired, Steve started fishing with Jordan. They have caught various fish, thoroughly enjoying their new hobby. "So, here's the deal." Steve stood beside me. All right, I'll pack breakfast." "Sandwiches are good, right?" "Of course, thank you." Then Alice came trotting over, puffing out her cheeks. "If you're leaving at 3 a.m., what time does she have to get up to make breakfast?" "It's tough for Grandma." Such a thoughtful girl at only 5 years old. "Alice is the idol of our home and a great comfort to me." Sorry. "I'll do it myself from now on." "I'll catch your favorite fish, okay?" "Really?" "Yay." "Good luck, Grandpa and Jordan." Her excitement over the promised reward was utterly adorable. I used to worry about what I'd do with all the free time in retirement, but those concerns were unfounded. Thanks to Jordan and Alice, we're living our days filled with sparkle. I don't know if the scars in their hearts will ever fully heal. But I hope they can feel that here, laughing together as a family every day, there's a place where they can come back to, safe and sound. That's my wish. Wake up, Jason, please. Lying in his coffin, my husband's face was as gentle as ever. When I spoke to him, it felt as though he could wake up at any moment. "I'm off, then." 2 days ago, he cheerfully called out to me and our daughter before leaving on a business trip. Little did I know that it would be the last time I'd hear his voice. Jason had taken his own life. No matter how much I called out to him, there was no way he, now as cold as ice, would respond. Yet, I just couldn't bring myself to believe this reality. That's when I noticed a single photo placed on his chest. It was a family photo that I didn't remember placing there. Who put this photo here? Curious, I picked up the photo and turned it over to find the words "Run away now" written on the back. A chill ran down my spine, and as I turned around, I met the cold gaze of my mother-in-law, Susan. Little did I know at that time, the nightmarish days that awaited me. My name is Emily, 32 years old. My parents passed away in a car accident when I was in college, leaving me all alone, and it was unbearable. During that time, the support I received from my then-boyfriend Jason, whom I married right after graduating, was invaluable. I lived happily with him and our 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Our in-law family consisted of my mother-in-law, Susan, and my brother-in-law, Kevin. My father-in-law had passed away from illness a year ago. Even though it was said to be an illness, the sudden onset of suffering that led to his death shocked the entire family. It was apparently a heart attack. They were wealthy, owning a business, so we were never in financial trouble. My father-in-law, who had both business acumen and a kind heart, had considered his younger son, Jason, as the successor. However, he passed away unexpectedly before this could be realized, and ultimately, the eldest son, Kevin, took over the family business. Dad did mention he wanted me to take over, but I can't just step ahead of Kevin. "I'm here to support him," Jason said. He really admired his older brother and had no objections to him taking the role of CEO. Kevin has always been kind to me too, approachable and easy to talk to. But I find Susan a bit challenging, and we don't interact much these days. When we first got married, she was very kind, cooking with me and saying, "I'm so happy to do this together since I don't have a daughter." But she turned cold suddenly after my father-in-law passed away. She became distant to both Jason and me, avoiding eye contact and ignoring us, which was confusing. Even Lily, who was adored as the first grandchild, was met with glaring eyes and dismissed when she approached, calling her grandma. It was painful to see Jason saddened by the drastic change in his once kind mother. Mom's acting weird, right? It's like she sees me as an enemy. Maybe she's after the inheritance? Or could it be some illness? He pondered, but he couldn't figure out why. Thinking back, I first noticed the change in her during the seventh-day memorial service for my father-in-law when we stayed over at their house. We were exhausted and slept deeply, but in the morning, we noticed our bags with our clothes were missing. A thief, maybe? No, it's strange that only our bags are missing. Let's look around. While searching, we saw smoke rising from the backyard through the window. Fearing the worst, we went outside to find our belongings being burned. And there was Susan, standing nearby. "Mom, you didn't do this, did you? Please, Susan, answer us." However, she didn't respond at all. Her eyes were wide, her lips pale, and her hands were trembling as if she was terrified. "Why would you do this? What about us don't you like?" Jason, unable to hide his confusion at her silence, looked into her eyes and spoke gently. "You're not thinking we're after your assets, are you? I don't care about your money, so please relax. We care about you, Susan." We pleaded earnestly, but she coldly retorted, "Get out of here quickly. And don't ever come back." Confused and without understanding why, we left the house in a hurry and became estranged, hardly visiting over the past year. I wondered if this was okay, feeling like there was no reaching Susan, who clearly seemed to despise our family. However, one day, we received an invitation from her for a memorial mass in honor of my father-in-law. We attended, along with other relatives, but her attitude towards us remained as cold as ever. After returning home, Jason seemed lost and thought more often. "What's wrong, Jason? Are you worried about your mother?" Oh. Yeah. Let me know if there's anything I can do." "It's okay, Emily. You don't need to worry about anything." Seeing the worry in my eyes, he gently caressed my cheek, offering reassurance. His kind smile truly comforted me, easing my troubled heart. About a month passed. "All right, I'll be going then." As always, he cheerfully called out to me and our daughter before leaving on a business trip. However, he soon returned, saying, "I forgot to give you this," and handed me a charm. "This will surely protect you." With a warm and gentle smile, he looked at me. At that moment, I felt truly grateful to be married to him. However, the next day, a shocking event occurred. He had taken his own life. His car was found on a mountain road near his parents' home, with him inside, foam at his mouth, having passed away. Although he told me he was going on a business trip, the company said there was no trip scheduled that day. Moreover, I was told that just before his death, he called Kevin saying, "I can't do this anymore. Living has become too painful. I'm sorry." I tried my best to stop him, but it ended up like this. Kevin apologized to me repeatedly. According to the police, they found traces of poisonous plants in his stomach. This type of plant, which grows in the mountains, could be easily obtained by someone with a bit of knowledge. Ultimately, with Kevin's testimony, it was concluded that he must have ingested it with the intent to end his life. I had no idea why this had happened and blamed myself for not noticing my husband's suffering. Standing in front of his remains, I nearly collapsed, but Kevin supported me. "Stay strong, Emily. I'm suffering too. I wish I had been more understanding of Jason's feelings. Why did this happen?" My daughter Lily, too, was crying as she hugged me. However, Susan, with a pale face, was the only one without tears, glaring at us. As I mourned, Kevin and others from the company proceeded with the funeral arrangements on my behalf. "Please, wake up." On the day of the funeral, as I spoke to my husband lying peacefully in his coffin, it felt as if he might wake up at any moment. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I clung to him. It was at that moment I noticed a single photo placed on his chest. Who put this photo here? Puzzled, I picked up the photo to find his face in the family picture was cut out with a knife. On the back was written, "Run away now." S. What is this? Who was the runaway message intended for? As a chill ran down my spine and I turned around, I met the cold gaze of Susan. Eh? Could it be? As I stared back, she averted her eyes as if flustered. I couldn't help but feel that she knew something. And so, without anyone noticing, I quietly slipped the photo into my pocket. After the funeral had settled down and some time had passed, I began to wonder again about the photo. I still didn't know who had placed it in the coffin, but the S in the message might be an initial, right? If so, the only person that comes to mind with an S is Susan. In other words, my mother-in-law. Furthermore, I just couldn't believe that my husband would leave me and our daughter to take his own life. And I was desperate to understand even a little bit of the reason behind it. That's why I decided to visit her. When I arrived at her house, she greeted me with the same cold expression as always. Unfortunately, Kevin was out at work, leaving just the two of us. What brings you here all of a sudden? I wanted to know if there was any clue here about why he passed away. Standing in front of her, I didn't have the courage to confront her directly, so I lied on the spur of the moment. I casually looked up at the large bookshelf that filled one wall of the living room, hoping to find a way to start a conversation. The family, known for their studious nature, had a bookshelf filled with not only novels but also encyclopedias and dictionaries. There were also several books that Jason used to read during his student days, and I picked up a few, feeling nostalgic. Each book had a library stamp at the end of the pages to indicate the owner, and his stamp had a cat snuggled next to the letter J. Seeing this, a smile naturally came to my face. But I could feel her cold gaze on me from behind. Then, I noticed a book with a cover on it. When I picked it up, it was a detailed book about poisonous plants. Some pages were marked with sticky notes, and opening one, I found the same poisonous plant he had used. The last page of the book also had the owner's stamp. Susan, what does this mean? That is... As I confronted her with the book in hand, she broke down in tears. It's all my fault. Forgive me. And the truth she revealed was astonishing. Please, make sure to inform the police. Yes, I will. I then reported to the police. Just then, Kevin, unaware of what had transpired, came home. Noticing the sad expressions on our faces, he asked with concern. What happened? It's rare for you to be here. Did something happen? Just... I wanted to talk about Jason with Susan. I see. It was a sad event, wasn't it? Has your heart settled a bit, Emily? Unable to reveal the truth to him, who spoke kindly and with concern as usual, I hesitated and looked down. Then, he began to say something unexpected. I know this might not be the right time to say this, but I've always had feelings for you, Emily. And I think Lily is adorable too. Would you consider remarrying with me? I was shocked by the sudden proposal. I had never imagined that he would harbor such feelings for me. Thank you, but I can't think about that right now. Yeah, I understand. Scratching his head and saying sorry with an embarrassed look, I presented him with the photo in question. Seeing the photo with Jason's face torn up and the message on the back, "Run away now," he paled and gasped for breath. This was inside his coffin. Who would do such a thing? It seems someone who knew who was responsible for his death was among the funeral attendees. Wait a minute. Jason ended his own life, so talking about a perpetrator doesn't make sense. His eyes darted around, seemingly confused. But in my dreams, he screams, I was framed by that guy. I hold a grudge. Startled by my words, he stared at me with wide eyes. As if he had seen something terrifying. And this, I found on the living room bookshelf. I presented the book about poisonous plants I had found earlier, pointing out the owner's stamp. It bore the stamp of IK, indicating it belonged to him, Kevin. What are you trying to say? Are you accusing me of killing my brother? I didn't answer his question but continued. Susan, who had been silent and looking down, watched the unfolding scene with bated breath. Also, please look at this. I took out the charm Jason had given me and extracted a letter from inside. It read, "My brother murdered our father with poisonous plants. During the funeral, I was holding on to the charm he had given me because I was in so much pain. It was then I felt something inside it and discovered the letter. This isn't proof. But what about this?" I pulled out my phone and started playing a video. It showed a conversation between Jason and Kevin. In the video, Kevin admitted to taking their father's life using poisonous plants. He also said, "I didn't target your family. I will confess to the police myself." Jason had secretly set up a camera in the family home when he decided to talk to him. This was also mentioned in the letter from Jason. When I first saw this, I was furious and felt a boiling rage. "So, you admitted your guilt to my husband, reassuring him, and then you also took his life using poison? Jason believed in you until the end. Why did you do this?" As I pressed for answers, his previously kind expression changed drastically, and he glared at me menacingly, clicking his tongue in annoyance. At that moment, Susan burst into tears and spoke with a strained voice. "Why would you do such a cruel thing?" She had confided everything to me earlier. The brothers used to be very close in their childhood. However, as they grew, Kevin became jealous of his talented younger brother and started to hide or break his belongings in petty acts of malice. They noticed this and disciplined him strictly. But Jason never blamed his older brother and instead admired him, which pained Susan. After my father-in-law passed away, she found the book about poisonous plants while cleaning the bookshelf. My husband was diagnosed with a heart attack, but he had never been warned about heart issues in any medical examination before. So, I thought something was off. When I checked the bookmarked sections of the book, the symptoms matched exactly with how he died. I was shocked. She didn't notice initially because the book was covered, but Kevin had been keenly reading that book about poisonous plants. Moreover, a photo of Jason's face, cut up with a knife, was also found between the pages of that book. However, without more concrete evidence, she didn't think confronting him would lead to a confession. She was severely shaken when she saw Kevin burning our bags during the seventh-day memorial service for Jason. That's why she acted coldly towards us, to keep us away from the family home for our safety. The regret in her voice was palpable as she spoke, and I couldn't say anything in response. Even though we kept our distance from the family home, his demeanor grew more hostile, muttering to himself about needing to deal with Jason. That's why I wanted to warn you about the danger. Using the photo found in the book about poisonous plants, I secretly told Jason that Kevin might have killed my husband. But it ended up backfiring. If Jason had remained unaware, he would not have gone to see his brother, and none of this would have happened. Susan blamed herself for everything. I had no words to respond to her. It's all because Dad started saying he wouldn't let me take over the company. But Jason always said he couldn't become the president over you. I don't care about that. Kevin. Dad loved you too, so did Jason. You didn't have to go this far. What's the point now? It's all because you parents only loved the younger son. Also Jason, who always played the good guy. It's all your fault. His defiance was clear, and his smile was almost devilish. How dare you harm my beloved husband? I'll never forgive you. Shut up. If you hadn't interfered, I might have made you my wife. In a fit of rage, he suddenly pulled out a knife he had been hiding and charged at me. I cried out, "Help me," and tried to flee in a panic, but he was quick and soon closed in on me. Cornered, with the knife raised above me, I instinctively closed my eyes at that moment. That's when it happened. Someone collided with us from the side, protecting me. It was Susan. "Susan, are you okay?" She grimaced, holding her arm where blood was seeping out. "Kevin, please stop this madness. I beg you, turn yourself in." "Shut up. Both of you need to disappear. But you've achieved your dream of becoming the president. Why go this far? I need the money." He took over the company, but just as his father had predicted, he lacked the talent for business management. Within a year, he found himself burdened with significant debt, leading to a desperate need for money. Incredibly, he had taken out a large life insurance policy on his own brother. Laughable, isn't it? Jason believed me so easily when I said I'd go to the police. He said, laughing hideously. I felt an overwhelming sense of disgust at his demeanor. But that fool didn't drink the poison wine I offered him for a farewell toast, which was wisely cautious. But he did shake my hand. Not knowing it had poison on it. Jason had a habit of licking his hands, right? Seems like it took effect in the car on his way back. Gloating, he revealed everything, swinging the knife menacingly at us. Even then, Jason wanted to save you. How could you not understand his feelings? Like I care. It's all the fault of a family that treated him like he was something special. At that moment, the police I had called earlier arrived. To the end, he continued to struggle, insisting, I'm not to blame. Forgive me. Let me go. People like you deserve to go to hell. My words made him gasp, and he finally subdued, allowing the police to take him away. Fortunately, her injuries were not serious. Ultimately, he showed no remorse, ensuring he would remain behind bars. Now, I live with Susan in the family home. She has returned to her kind self from before, doting on my daughter and living happily with us. And the letter inside the charm had more to say. You are my treasure, Emily. Always. I love you. Holding his feelings close to my heart, I resolved to keep living. Where are you? Are you safe? Half shouting, I checked on Michael's well-being, who I presumed was at the site of the fire. But over the phone, he replied with an annoyed tone. What's with the sudden call? I'm at work, obviously. And don't call me during work hours. With just those few words, he hung up abruptly. It would be impossible for him to be working as usual at the site of a fire. Realizing that Michael wasn't at his workplace, I was convinced of his betrayal and decided to proceed with a plan I had prepared earlier. My name is Susan, I'm 29 years old. As a nurse working in a hospital, I face numerous patients daily. Having been known as a caring and a nurturing person since childhood, I still enjoy being helpful to others as an adult. Thus, I even consider nursing to be my true calling. I have a beloved husband whom I've been married to for 2 years, living a happy married life in Michael's company housing. We met through a mutual friend 3 years ago. At a gathering with a few friends, Michael, perhaps out of shyness, drank too quickly and soon passed out. Maybe it was due to my profession as a nurse or just my nature. But I couldn't leave intoxicated him alone and ended up taking care of him at my place, despite it being our first meeting. The next day, Michael, who remembered nothing, seriously said, I'll take responsibility. Which made me burst out laughing. After clearing up his misunderstanding and explaining that nothing guilty had occurred, he apologized, embarrassed. From there, we started dating and got married after a year of relationship. Now, 3 years into our marriage, we don't have children yet, but I believe that with Michael, we can build a warm home. However, lately, perhaps due to his busy work schedule, his weekend work has increased, and he has become more distant. Moreover, even while sitting together on the sofa watching TV, he often just stares at his phone screen or lets out a big, ugh. At first, I wondered if I had done something to upset him and reflected on my actions, but couldn't pinpoint anything specific. Gradually, I became worried about his health and started researching nutritionally balanced menus, making more effort in preparing lunch and dinner. One day, my workplace operates on a day and night shift system, and I was originally scheduled for a night shift that day. However, the day before, a colleague contacted me saying, I need to switch from the day shift to the night shift, and so I ended up changing to the day shift abruptly. Since I had initially told Michael I would be on a night shift, I planned to inform him of the change but got caught up and ended up only being able to contact him on the day itself. I sent a message saying, my shift changed to day today, so I'll make dinner and wait for you, but didn't receive a quick reply. Thinking he might be busy at work, I focused on my duties, and hours later, I got a simple "got it" reply. Previously, he would reply sooner even during work, but lately it was just short responses. Is his job that demanding, or is this just what happens after 2 years of marriage? Feeling a bit lonely, I hurried home after buying ingredients from the supermarket, determined to make another nutritious meal. I was quite pleased with today's cooking. After plating the food, I took a photo and posted it on my cooking SNS account. Cooking for him has been my motivation, but lately, posting photos on SNS has also become a joy. Minutes after posting the photo, I received a notification on my phone. They commented again so quickly. One of the cooking buddies I met through my SNS cooking account has been commenting a lot lately. This connection, different from those with my coworkers, feels fresh and makes me happy. As I was doing this, he came home from work, and I quickly reheated the food, waiting to share dinner with him. Hi, dinner's ready. Was today busy for you? Yeah, thanks, it was tiring. By the way, you had a day shift all of a sudden. After seeing him, looking tired, sit down, I brought the reheated dinner to the table. Yeah, a colleague had an urgent matter. Sorry for the late notice, okay? We both sat down, said our thanks for the meal, and started eating. It's fine, it was a sudden change. But I'd appreciate it if you could let me know earlier next time. Sometimes I make plans to go out with colleagues. Ah, right, I understand. While saying this, I noticed he wasn't eating much. Is the food not to your liking? I wondered if it didn't suit his taste. When I asked out of concern, Michael, who was holding his fork, suddenly stopped and then opened his mouth with a somewhat awkward expression. No, it's not that. I just don't seem to have much of an appetite. Sorry, I'll eat it tomorrow morning. He gave a bitter laugh, said, thanks for the meal, and then stood up, heading towards the bathroom. More than half of the meal was still left on the table. As I suspected. With a new certainty in mind, I followed him to the bathroom. Hey, are you feeling unwell? You've been looking a bit down lately. I'm worried, so please go to the doctor. While brushing his teeth in the bathroom, he rinsed his mouth and laughed off my words, denying them. I'm fine, really. Ah, it might be because I haven't been exercising much lately. I'm going to go for a walk now. Saying that, he quickly got ready and headed to the front door. I'll come with you, I offered, but he gently declined. This made me even more worried. So, I decided to secretly follow him after he left, just in case he collapsed and needed immediate assistance. Even though that was my official reason, somewhere deep down, I might have already been swirling with a different kind of anxiety. That anxiety proved to be well-founded almost as soon as I started tailing him. Contrary to my worries, Michael, walking briskly, stopped in front of a park a short distance from our house. He looked around and seemed to be contacting someone on his phone. Then, a white car pulled up. Michael approached the car, briefly spoke with the person in the driver's seat, and then. It was hard to see in the dark. I moved a bit closer to the car, and my eyes caught the person in the driver's seat. A young woman with long curly hair, giving off a bewitching impression. The moment I saw her, my hand instinctively reached for my phone and started the camera. Michael got into the passenger seat. The woman smiled at him. I reflexively captured the moment in a photo, and by the time I came back to my senses, the car with the two of them had already driven off. Shock, confusion, suspicion, a whirlwind of emotions rendered me unable to move from that spot. Then, I received a message from him saying, I ran into someone I know, so I'll be home late. Someone he knows? By chance? The scene I had just witnessed was seared into my mind, and I couldn't bring myself to believe his words. Eventually, he didn't return home until after 1 a.m. My anxiety having reached its limit, tears streaming down my face, I confronted him with the photo I had taken. Seeing the photo, he froze for a moment, then quickly tried to laugh it off, saying, "Oh, I just happened to meet her during my walk. She's a client from work. It was just a consultation, nothing more. Trust me," he said with a sorrowful look, almost as if he were the victim, discouraging any further questioning. After that, his work seemed to get busier, and he often had to work overtime, especially on days I had a day shift. Despite our increasingly divergent schedules, I tried to find time to talk about what had happened. Only to be turned down because he was too tired. Overtime yesterday, working on his day off today. Really? During work, whenever I let my guard down, the image of Michael and that woman together would come to mind, leaving me restless. After finishing a night shift, the morning sun stung my tired eyes. Having been consumed by anxiety and worry lately, I hadn't been taking care of myself. So I stopped by a bakery open early in the morning and bought a cake. Feeling slightly better, I left the shop and took a different route home. This area, with many hotels, often has couples that seem to be up to something, but it was quiet this early in the morning. Carefully walking to prevent the cake from crumbling, I thought to myself, I have some tea at home, maybe we could enjoy it together. Across the street from the hotel I was passing, I caught a glimpse of a young couple coming out. My eyes casually drifted over, and I froze. It was Michael, smiling sleepily, and the woman with the long curly hair from the other day, smiling back at him. The cake slipped from my hands and squished onto the ground. With my mind going blank, all that remained was a sense of duty. I must capture evidence. With trembling hands, I took out my phone and captured a photo of the two of them, arm in arm, smiling at each other. The shot captured them looking like a couple in love. My heart pounded, and a cold sweat broke out. Indeed, he was lying. In my field of vision were the cake box on the ground and the photo of the two. While staring blankly at them, I thought in the back of my mind, I can't stay with him anymore. One day, after a series of events turned my suspicions about him into certainty, the word divorce began to feel like a real option. That day, I was working the day shift as usual, busy with my tasks. While I was on the phone, I could hear the sound of fire engine sirens in the distance, passing through the neighborhood. It wasn't just one, but 2 or 3 in a row, which made me a bit worried that there might be a fire somewhere. After finishing the call and taking a moment to breathe, 2 colleagues who had been to the wards returned, saying, "It's scary, isn't it?" As they chatted. "Hey, what happened?" I asked, wondering if there had been some trouble. They whispered, "There was a fire at Company A patient we passed in the hallway mentioned it." Company A, fire. At that moment, a chill ran down my spine. Excusing myself from my colleagues, I gripped my phone and hurried to a secluded spot. Company A, where the fire was reported, was where Michael worked. Praying for his safety, I called him. That morning, as usual, I had seen him off to work. Since the incident, we had barely seen each other at home and spoke even less, but I never skipped seeing him off in the morning. "Please, pick up." As if my prayers were answered, after a few rings, I heard Michael's voice say, "Hello? Where are you? Are you safe?" Half shouting, I checked on his well-being, but he replied with an annoyed tone. "What's with the sudden call?" "I'm at work, obviously. And don't call me during work hours." With just those few words, he hung up abruptly. All I could hear was the beeping sound indicating the call had ended. From his tone on the phone, I was relieved he didn't seem to be caught in the fire, but a significant discomfort lingered. It would be impossible to work normally at the sight of a fire. Furthermore, his earlier words and attitude, which trampled over my worried feelings, began to fuel my anger. He must not be at his workplace right now. I had seen him off to work as usual that day, but he must not have headed to his workplace. Since getting married, I might have been unknowingly seeing off him as he went to another woman. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw a glimpse of lustrous long curly hair swaying. With a firm decision in mind, I dialed a certain number on my phone. After finishing work safely, I hurried home and began gathering all the furniture and appliances. Then, the doorbell rang, ding-dong. When I opened the door, it wasn't Michael standing there, but a friend from college. This friend, who knew about my situation with Michael, had volunteered to help me with my escape this time. Despite calling from work and asking for urgent help with moving my belongings, she gladly accepted. "Thank you so much. I'll treat you to something nice next time." Expressing my gratitude, she responded with a smile, "You've had a tough time, haven't you? I'm always here to help." I felt warmed by the thought of having such a good friend during these challenging times. Together, we moved the furniture and appliances out and loaded the clothes I had prepared a few weeks in advance into the car. The room, now devoid of the furniture and appliances I had used since my single days, looked almost empty. Looking at the room, I asked myself again if I had any regrets about leaving this life behind. No, I don't need it anymore. Without a second glance back, I briskly turned on my heel, heading to an apartment near my workplace. In fact, the day I witnessed Michael coming out of the hotel with her, I went straight to a real estate agent in a burst of momentum. Though I wasn't entirely set on divorcing, I had rented an apartment in advance, just in case. I started unpacking the moved-in belongings, reassured that I had made the right choice. Then, I suddenly remembered something and took out my phone. Holding the phone to my ear, I waited for the impersonal voice guidance to begin. A few hours later, the moving work had come to a pause. As I was taking a break, a call came in on WhatsApp. Checking the display, I saw Michael's name. I sighed and, after a brief pause, answered with a "Hello? Susan, where are you right now? I came home to an empty house, and my phone's been disconnected. What's going on? Most of the stuff in the house was mine to begin with, so I just took it. The phone was under my name, so I canceled the contract." His panic was palpable through the phone, but I stated the facts calmly. "Wait, I thought you couldn't use your phone. I can only use WhatsApp when connected to Wi-Fi." "But forget that, are you seriously running away from home? You're joking, right?" His obliviousness to the situation only added to my irritation. "Are you serious right now? Don't pretend you forgot our conversation earlier today. It's impossible for someone to calmly work while there's a fire going on." Struggling to keep my anger in check, I asked what I had wanted to know all day, no, for a long time. "Where were you, and who were you with, instead of going to the office?" At my question, he caught his breath and fell silent. After a brief silence, perhaps unable to withstand my silent pressure, he began to speak as if resigning himself. "The story I told you before, about running into a client while on a walk, was a lie. She's actually a colleague from work. And I was at her house today." The story he unraveled was just as I had anticipated. He had started an affair with the receptionist. They had been meeting on the days I had night shifts. But recently, as she became more demanding, he lied about working overtime or on holidays to meet her. Today, they had both taken a day off to spend at her place, where they learned about the fire when she received a call on her phone. After confessing everything, he still said, "Please forgive me," with a pleading voice over the phone. I thought it was absurd. "I'm glad I got to hear the truth from you. I tried my best to build a good home during our short marriage." Over the phone, I could tell he was saying, "Wait," trying to hold me back, but I ignored it and continued speaking. "I want a divorce because of your affair. We'll proceed with divorce through our lawyers. Goodbye." He seemed to want to say more, but, resigned to my firm stance, he only murmured, "Okay." The fire at Company A was later covered by local news due to its scale. Watching the report, I was stunned. The culprit was Michael's mistress, Amanda. She had sneaked into a company meeting room early in the morning, frayed a curtain, and lit the resulting thread with a lighter. The fire quickly spread across the curtain, leading to the meeting room's complete destruction. Fortunately, the building itself only sustained partial damage, but security footage revealed Amanda's actions. As for her motive, she said, "The married man I was dating wouldn't divorce, and threatening to expose our relationship at work didn't work. I thought I had to do something like this." I couldn't understand why she would commit a crime just to be with Michael. According to her colleagues, Amanda often complained about being lonely, saying, "It's hard being alone." Maybe she envied married people who seemed to have everything and thought acquiring such a relationship would fill her own void. I realized that feeling lonely despite being with someone could be far worse. After the divorce discussion, I had no direct contact with Michael, but we proceeded with the divorce through lawyers. Meanwhile, I heard about Michael's situation at work. After the fire, he, genuinely unaware of the situation, was shocked to learn the truth from the HR department. Amanda was arrested shortly after, and the news of their affair quickly spread throughout the company. Unable to endure the behind-the-back talk, he resigned from his company. Hearing about this series of events, I felt a slight sympathy, but I also felt that Michael got what he deserved for choosing another woman over me. With that sentiment, I proceeded with the divorce proceedings dispassionately, and the divorce was finalized without issue. The process went smoothly, partly because Michael eventually agreed our divorce. With my ties to him completely severed, I've been enjoying living alone in my new apartment, which I've grown quite accustomed to. Perhaps I had neglected myself by prioritizing others in the past. While continuing my job as a nurse, I've started to take time for myself, especially to enjoy cooking. With Michael. In the morning, I open the windows of my apartment to let in fresh air. Glancing outside, I see a family of 3 walking together happily. Even seeing this, I don't feel any regret about my current situation. Instead, I'm excited about what the future holds. Just then, my phone buzzes, and I return to my room, smiling as I read the screen. Since then, I've hit it off with someone I connected with through my cooking SNS account, and we've made plans to cook together today. I replied to the message saying, "I'll be there soon," and got started on preparing for today's meal. Hey! What time do you think it is? Looking at the clock, it's only 5:30. What time? It's only 5:30. What's the matter, getting up so early in the morning? I answered groggily, but Justin continued relentlessly. What do you mean only 5:30? It's common sense for a wife to wake up earlier than her husband, get ready, and have breakfast prepared. Hearing Justin rant like this so early in the morning left me in disbelief. What era is he talking about? It sounded like a line from a mean mother-in-law in an old drama. Since marrying him, we had separate baths and bedrooms, with no intimate relations at all. Then one day, he collapsed at work and had to be rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. As I waited outside the operating room, I heard a young doctor scream. Yikes! What on earth is this? Through this surgery, I would come to discover a surprising secret about him. And also how tough my situation really was. Realizing that I couldn't go on like this, I decided to regain my true self with the help of someone. My name is Susan, a 42-year-old housewife helping with the family business. I used to work in a hospital as a nursing assistant before I got married. I enjoyed my job well enough, but among my friends, I was the only one not married. Both my parents had passed away, leaving me feeling all alone at home, and I was in a hurry to get married. Then, one fateful day. Sitting alone in a bar, a man approached me. "Excuse me, may I sit here?" The man who spoke to me was my current husband, Justin Miller. He was 3 years older than me and ran a small manufacturing company on his own. As we talked, it seemed he was also single without a partner, just like me. As we shared our stories, we hit it off. 2 single adults. I was hoping for a somewhat romantic night, but we ended up making plans to meet again soon and called it an early night. After that, our dating started naturally, and we went out once a week. Dates with him, who is quiet and faithful, were just calm conversations in cafes and parks. However, I gradually found myself drawn to his seemingly kind nature. Then, on our 3rd date. Considering our age, it wouldn't make sense to keep dating aimlessly, right? Seeing him fidget as he spoke, I was slightly hopeful. "Do you mean?" "Yes, I know it's only been a month since we started dating, but we're both of similar age, so, would you consider marrying me? Is that okay?" It was certainly an unusual proposal. But I was in a hurry to get married, and I thought he was a good person, so I quickly responded. "Yes, I'd be happy to." As soon as I agreed, his face lit up with joy. Since neither of us had parents, we decided to obtain marriage license and have a small wedding ceremony of only us. Upon getting married, I quit my job to help with his company. And so, my married life with him began. But it also marked the start of days filled with suffering. We had no physical relationship from the time we met until we got married. I thought he was just a serious person who wouldn't casually enter into relationships with women. I believed that once we got married, we would naturally enjoy a married life. But that belief was. But on the very first day of our marriage, he set some unexpected rules. "I'll sleep in the bedroom, so Susan, please sleep in a different room. Also, I often come home late because of work. So please take your shower first." Surprised by his statement, I couldn't help but respond with a tone of disbelief. "Eh? You mean we're going to sleep separately? Even though we're newlyweds?" Even when I asked, he just nonchalantly insisted on his point of view. "I can't sleep well when I'm in the same room with someone else. And the bathroom is too small for us to share, isn't it? Despite my frustration with his reasoning, I didn't want to start an argument on the first day, so I didn't say anything more. The next morning, I was startled awake by a loud voice before my 6 a.m. alarm. "Hey. What time do you think it is?" Looking at the clock, it's only 5:30. "What time?" "It's only 5:30. What's the matter, getting up so early in the morning?" I answered groggily, but Justin continued relentlessly. "What do you mean only 5:30? It's common sense for a wife to wake up earlier than her husband, get ready, and have breakfast prepared." Hearing him rant like this so early in the morning left me in disbelief. What era is he talking about? It sounded like a line from a mean mother-in-law in an old drama. I thought so, but when I looked at his face, I saw a fierceness I had never seen before. Feeling that it was not wise to contradict him, I immediately got dressed and started preparing the meal. Although it might seem obvious, we still eat meals together even if we use separate bedrooms. As we sat opposite each other eating breakfast, something caught my attention. It's already July, yet he is wearing a long-sleeved sweater. Thinking that I might have to prepare summer clothes for him, I asked Justin. "I'm sorry for only having a sweater available at this time of year. I'm supposed to prepare summer clothes for you, right?" At my question, he seemed to choke on his food, coughing and sputtering as he replied. Ahem, ahem. "No, I dress like this all year round, I don't need summer clothes. See? I'm sensitive to the cold. You know how it gets chilly with the air conditioning this time of year." If he really dislikes the cold, that makes sense. Still, there was no need for him to panic like that. His unnatural behavior left me unsure of how to respond. Since then, I've been going to the office in the morning to help with the business. But he tells me to go home early evening to prepare dinner, so I return home early. He was not only particular about meals but also about cleaning and laundry, leaving me with no time to relax even when I came home early. I cleaned every corner of the house and neatly folded and put away the laundry. Preparing dinner and taking a shower before he returned became my daily routine after getting married. He was the type of husband who adhered to old-fashioned roles, not lifting a finger at home. I understood he was busy as a business owner, but I wished he would help out with the household chores a bit. I thought so, but saying anything that might upset him could lead to another outburst. While making dinner, I suddenly wondered. What did I get married for? Since our bedrooms are separate, we have no intimate relations at all. At this rate, despite being married, I don't feel happy at all. Far from being happy, I might be losing sight of who I really am. Thinking this, I suddenly felt overwhelmed and tears began to flow endlessly. As I sat there crying alone, around 5 p.m., my phone rang. It was a female employee from our company. "Oh, Mrs. Miller, it's terrible. Mr. Miller suddenly collapsed. We've called an ambulance, so please head to the hospital right away." Hearing this, I was lost for words. Sensing my state, the employee calmly told me the name of the hospital. Trying to calm myself, I thanked the employee and immediately called a taxi. At the hospital, I gave my name at the reception and was guided to the treatment room where he was. I was told to wait outside, so I sat down on a chair in front of the door. The door to the treatment room opened, and out came Dr. Nathan Taylor, a veteran doctor about the same age as Justin. I stood up and approached Dr. Taylor. "Excuse me, I'm the wife of Justin Miller. How is my husband's condition? Are you his wife? Your husband's life is not in danger, but he needs to be admitted to the hospital immediately for surgery." "Eh? Is that so? Then, please take good care of him." After greeting Dr. Taylor, I didn't see Justin but just completed the paperwork for his admission and surgery before heading home. Normally, I would have stayed by his side. Dr. Taylor and the nurses might have thought I was a cold wife, but since Justin and I weren't close, I couldn't bring myself to stay with him. Then, on the day of the surgery, I didn't see Justin before the surgery. I arrived at the hospital around the time it was supposed to start. While waiting outside, I heard a young man scream from the operating room. "Ah. Yikes. What on earth is this? What are you saying as the doctor?" I wondered if the one screaming was an assistant doctor. The young doctor seemed scared, and the lead surgeon was trying to calm him down. Still, the young doctor responded with a voice that seemed about to tremble. But. I've never seen such an incredible tattoo before. What should we do? Calm down. It won't interfere with the surgery. I wondered what all the fuss was about. The voices were loud enough to be heard outside the operating room. They mentioned something about a tattoo. The assistant might seem unreliable, but the lead surgeon seemed competent, so I waited for the surgery to end with peace of mind. A few hours later, the surgery ended, and 2 doctors came out. One was the young doctor, Dr. Thompson, who had screamed earlier, looking as if he had seen something unpleasant. The other was the lead surgeon, Dr. Taylor, whom I had met before. Dr. Taylor looked at Dr. Thompson with a somewhat disdainful expression. Dr. Thompson seemed like a well-off young man who was unaccustomed to hardship. I stood up and looked at Dr. Taylor. Beside him, Dr. Thompson apologized to me with a look of regret. "I'm sorry about your husband's tattoo on his back." "Hey. Stop that." I didn't quite understand what the two were talking about. Dr. Thompson's words especially caught my attention. "Excuse me. You've been mentioning the tattoo. What's that about?" Both doctors looked surprised at my question. Ma'am. It's about that large demon tattoo on your husband's back. It covers his entire back, doesn't it?" I was taken aback by Dr. Thompson's unexpected response. "So, that's why Justin kept the bath and bedroom separate." Dr. Taylor maintained a calm demeanor. "I apologize for the disturbance. The surgery went smoothly. Your husband is fine now. Can I talk to him now?" "Yes, you'll be able to see him shortly." After waiting for a while, I was led to the treatment room. Justin, there, who had woken up from the anesthesia and was wearing a hospital gown, lay down. Noticing me, he looked uncomfortable. "I didn't want you to see that, Susan. Why are you here when I didn't call for you?" Faced with his brusque attitude, I couldn't even say, "How are you feeling?" Justin seemed to think it was a problem that his tattoo was discovered. Though the demon on his back was not visible, the tattoo around his shoulder was clearly visible through the hospital gown. Still, I wondered why he thought he could keep such a large tattoo hidden forever. Although I was curious, considering it was after his surgery, I decided the conversation could wait and didn't ask anything about it. Justin remained sullen, turning away. Dr. Thompson looked at us alternately with curiosity, asking me, "Aren't you going to say something to your husband?" I didn't know what to say at such a moment. Then, Justin spoke up. "Susan, if you have no business here, then just leave." "What?" "Not what?" Standing there looking glum, it's like a viewing and I hate it. "If you understand, then please go home." Dr. Thompson frowned and tilted his head at Justin's manner of speaking. He must be wondering if we are really a couple. Right. It seems pointless to stay, so I'll be going. In the end, I left the hospital as he had demanded. Unable to bring myself to go straight home, I dined out. As I was walking out of the restaurant, a man called out to me from behind. "Susan." Turning around, I saw Dr. Taylor, the attending physician who had helped us earlier. Dressed in a suit, he seemed to be on his way home from work. "Ah, thank you for earlier." I tried to thank Dr. Taylor, but he started speaking as if to cut me off. I was wondering how Justin could have such a nice wife. But it seems there's some complication? From his tone, it seemed he had known Justin for some time. "What do you mean?" "Oh, sorry for being so direct. It just seemed odd to me that a wife wouldn't stay by his side when he's been rushed to the hospital from his workplace. I'm sorry for causing any inconvenience to the hospital staff." I apologized, thinking I might have inconvenienced the hospital. However, he shook his head and replied, "No, that's not what I meant. It's just that you seemed unaware of his tattoo." That caught my attention. Dr. Taylor seemed to know something about Justin's tattoo. Curious, I asked him for more details. Dr. Taylor shared that he and Justin had been classmates in middle school. Justin was quite the troublemaker back then, often riding around with his biker gang. And rarely attending school. To intimidate others, he got a large demon tattoo on his back around that time. Dr. Taylor, who was the student council president then, couldn't stand such delinquency among his peers. We were in the same class in our first year. We weren't particularly close, but Justin wasn't always a bad guy. Dr. Taylor wanted to reform Justin and, with great determination, he ventured into the territory of the delinquent group Justin was part of, desperately trying to convince him to change his ways. "Justin, please leave this group and come to school." Despite his desperate plea in front of the delinquents, Dr. Taylor was badly treated by Justin's friends. However, his efforts seemed to have had some effect, as Justin started attending school again and later went on to a correspondence high school. I was astonished to learn about Justin's past. Justin doesn't seem to remember me anymore. But I'm glad he reformed and started working seriously. However, it seems your marriage to him isn't straightforward. It seems even to others that my relationship with Justin isn't normal. Thinking about it makes me feel embarrassed and disheartened. It's truly embarrassing. To think our unnatural relationship is so apparent. He gently shook his head again. "No, it's not you who's unnatural. It seems Justin is the one neglecting you for some reason." Reflecting on his words, I began to feel the same. Somehow, I found I could talk to Dr. Taylor about anything. Perhaps as a doctor, he's accustomed to offering support to patients' families in times like these. I felt a mix of gratitude and guilt for burdening him with my troubles. "I'm sorry, Dr. Taylor, for troubling you with such personal matters concerning a patient's family. No, I'm not speaking to you as a doctor right now, but as an individual. Back in the day, I couldn't stand his delinquency and confronted him about it, but now, for a different reason, I find myself unable to forgive him again." At that moment, I couldn't grasp the full meaning of his words. "A different reason?" When I asked, he showed a shy smile. "Well, that aside, if you ever find yourself confused about Justin, please feel free to consult me. I might be able to help in some way." Talking to the empathetic Dr. Taylor made me feel like I could share anything with him. He knew a lot about Justin's past. So, sharing my current situation might help find a way to resolve my troubles. With that thought, I detailed to Dr. Taylor everything from when I met Justin up to the present. He listened intently, his brows furrowed in a stern expression. "Something's off. What was he thinking when he got involved with you? I don't really understand his feelings either." As I responded, tears started to well up in my eyes. Talking to someone made me realize how dissatisfied I am with the way I'm living now. "I understand. Just leave it to me for now." I felt guilty for troubling someone with my personal issues. Yet, his kindness made me feel relieved and filled my heart with warmth. I decided to resolve the ambiguous relationship with Justin, with Dr. Taylor's help. The next morning, I visited Justin's hospital room. Dr. Taylor had informed me that Justin's post-operative recovery was stable, so I wanted to talk to him. However, even when I arrived, Justin kept looking out the window, refusing to meet my eyes. Still wanting to clarify the truth, I didn't hesitate to question him. "Why did you keep silent all this time? With such a large tattoo, it was bound to be discovered eventually. Or did you plan to keep it hidden without maintaining a marital relationship?" Justin remained silent at my question. Then, he muttered softly. "I thought you would run away again." "Again? What do you mean?" As I pressed for an answer, he began to talk about his past relationships. According to him, every time he got involved with someone and they saw his tattoo, they would break up with him. Justin, who appeared to be a diligent young man, had a large demon tattoo on his back that no one would suspect. The menacing demon on his back makes it seem like he's involved in some dangerous organization. "Your misdeeds were only until middle school, right? Why didn't you remove the tattoo when you reformed?" When I pressed further, he glared at me with a sharp look and yelled, "I just couldn't bring myself to erase this tattoo." "Why not?" I wanted to know the truth about him, but he didn't seem willing to answer. Instead, he questioned me. "More importantly, how do you know about my middle school days?" "I don't recall telling you anything. I heard it from someone who was the student council president during your middle school." "Nathan?" He seemed to remember Nathan. But why had he remained silent about their reunion? Despite knowing Nathan had tried so hard to reform him? Why didn't you say a word of thanks to Dr. Taylor? He remembers you clearly. And it's thanks to him that you were able to reform and become who you are today, isn't it? At my question, he tilted his head. You're misunderstanding something. The reason I straightened up was because a friend of mine died in a motorcycle accident. I decided to quit biking and live a proper life for his sake. This tattoo is like a memento from him, we got it together. The truth about the tattoo was revealed. Yet, I still felt somewhat unsatisfied with his explanation. Why? Dr. Taylor even tried to reform you, facing resistance from your friends, and yet you talk as if it doesn't matter. That's terrible. Shut up. Why do you keep taking his side? What, do you like him or something? He pressed me, but I felt no guilt. After all, there's no reason for Justin to be jealous in our current marital situation. I decided it was time to clarify things and asked him. What about you? Don't you love me? What was the purpose of our marriage? Well, Justin seemed to struggle for an answer. I stared at him, determined not to leave until I got a clear response. What's it going to be? Be clear. Well, the thing is, after losing my parents in the last 2 to 3 years, there was no one to do the household chores. So, I thought I needed a wife to manage. What? Is that all? Learning the true reason behind our marriage shocked me. Not wanting to discuss it further, I left the hospital room. Dr. Taylor was standing at the exit. He guided me to the lobby, careful not to let our conversation reach Justin. As I thought, shall we proceed with the plan? Yes. I decided to act on the contingency plan he had suggested, considering the worst-case scenario. 2 weeks passed. Today was Justin's discharge day. Since that day, I hadn't visited his room even once and didn't go to the hospital to pick him up. I had been busy at the company these 2 weeks. During his hospitalization, I acted as the company's president, handling various procedures. He needed to rest at home for a while after his discharge. So, I prepared a day's meals in the morning before leaving for work until evening. Since his hospitalization, we had grown even more distant. Seeing each other less meant fewer arguments. However, it was better not to see him for the work I was about to do. A month after his discharge, when his health had improved significantly, he visited the company. Upon entering, he was shocked by the drastically changed interior. I quietly observed from the back office. What the hell? Even the manufacturing equipment and employees' desks are gone. Hearing his astonished voice, the employees approached him. Mr. Miller, thank you for everything. What do you mean? Confused, Justin looked around. The employees exchanged glances. Probably unsure who should explain. Actually, our company has been absorbed by Taylor Industries, located in the same area. Starting tomorrow, we will be re-employed there. What? I wasn't informed about this. His voice echoed through the office, shocked by the merger news. Thinking it was about time, I stepped forward. Oh. Sorry, Justin. The decision was made suddenly, so I was late in informing you. What? A merger like that should be discussed first with me, the president. Justin was furious, his face red with anger. That's true, but we've run into a bit of trouble, I said, showing Justin a photograph. It was taken by a male employee who had recently left the company. The photo showed Justin sneakily changing clothes in the men's locker room. The photo clearly captured the large demon tattoo on his back. The man believed that the company's president might be involved in some bad organization, and after discussing it with other employees, he left the company. Now, all the employees here harbor a sense of distrust towards Justin. It's not just about the tattoo, there are other reasons too. In fact, after we got married, he started dumping all the troublesome company procedures on me. He would sneak out during work to go gambling at casino and horse races. There had been sightings by the neighbors, so this was known for some time. The photo taken by the former employee in the locker room was taken when Justin was changing clothes to sneak out while no one was around. By chance, he was late for personal reasons and managed to take the evidence photo. When the other employees learned everything, they started to express their desire to leave, but that's when I informed everyone about the merger. One of the employees said to Justin, "Mr. Miller, we thought we couldn't continue under someone like you. Dumping all your work on your wife and doing as you please. And then there's the flashy tattoo on your back, which surely questions the dignity of a company's president, doesn't it?" All the employees nodded in agreement. Justin, looking troubled, muttered softly, "That has nothing to do with this tattoo." Ah. More importantly, a person who can't even cherish one wife has no right to lead many people. Dr. Taylor interjected as he walked in. "Nathan. Why are you even here? This has nothing to do with you." "No, it has everything to do with me. I was the one who suggested our company absorb this one." "What?" "Indeed, the company that was merging with us, Taylor Industries, was run by his brother. In other words, it was his family business. He had been sincerely looking out for me, believing I shouldn't stay with Justin any longer. Justin was failing not just as a husband but also as a president. That's why I had been burdened with troubles both personally and professionally. He had considered this in devising the current strategy. Now, Justin, due to his own negligence both at home and work, found himself completely isolated. Realizing he could lose everything, Justin began to grovel to Dr. Taylor. If it's not too much to ask, could I possibly join the company as well?" Out of the blue, he was asking for employment. Everyone around looked at Justin with dismay. Dr. Taylor sighed, and placed his hand on Justin's shoulder. "If that were the case, it would defeat the purpose of everyone here leaving this company. Besides, it's better for Susan to be freed from you sooner." Hearing this from Nathan, Justin quickly turned to me and pressed, "Susan. Do you want to leave me? How am I supposed to live without you?" His pleading look made me respond with disdain. "I can't continue a superficial marriage like this. I'm not your mother or a maid. You need to be alone for once and learn to take care of yourself." As I firmly stated this, he was left speechless. I was ready to deliver the final blow to Justin, who became silent. "Also, I've decided to rejoin the workforce as a nursing assistant at the hospital on Dr. Taylor's recommendation. I can make a living on my own income now. So, let's get a divorce." At my words, he began to panic. "Divorce? Wait. Even if you're okay, I can't live on my own without a job. So? Justin. Just give it up. You, always thinking of yourself and never considering others' feelings. Such a person should be alone and cool his head." Dr. Taylor scolded him with a loud shout. He trembled and couldn't say anything back. And so, I left Justin and moved out. I started working as a nursing assistant while living in the hospital's staff dormitory for a while. The dormitory was filled with young nursing students, and I felt a bit out of place being over 40. But finally free from a distressing life, I felt refreshed. From now on, I'm determined to work hard and live independently. Even after the divorce, Justin continues to live alone in his original home. After the company was absorbed and merged with Taylor Industries, all the employees transferred there. The site of his former company is now vacant land. Although unemployed, he still owns his home, so there's no worry about rent. Or so it should have been. Lately, passing by his house on my way to work, I hear loud voices of men and women almost every day. No matter how late at night I pass by, I still hear loud voices, so I ask the neighbors about it. According to the neighbors, he is now living with a woman. Perhaps because he said he couldn't live alone, he quickly found someone. But she is complaining about him to the neighbors. When asked what the complaints were, it was as I expected. With no income and unwilling to do any household chores, Justin, as always, leaves all the cooking, cleaning, and laundry to his partner. It seems they argue daily as his partner vents her frustrations at him. At worst, they throw things at each other, and the sound of breaking glass echoes throughout the neighborhood. Perhaps, the tattoo he initially hid was also discovered, adding to the complaints against him. It seems that a man like Justin never learns, no matter who he's with. The neighbors seem to be troubled by the noise from his house every day, well into the night. But after a while, someone apparently reported the noise disturbance to the police, and he was ordered to leave. I heard from the neighbors that they broke up at the same time as the eviction. Incidentally, I often see him wrapped in cardboard at the park, seemingly still without a job. Being homeless probably makes it even harder for him to find a new job. If I ever get approached by him, I plan to ignore him and walk away. But I probably won't have to worry about that anymore. After completing my training, I was given a significant salary increase as a nursing assistant at the hospital by assessment of my work performance. Thanks to my over 20 years of experience being considered, I moved to an apartment suitable for living alone and bought a car, considering the night shifts. Now that I'll be commuting by car, it's unlikely I'll unexpectedly run into the homeless Justin, unless something extraordinary happens. I often see Dr. Taylor at work. Thanks to him, I've become more positive about life. Now, I feel like I've completely regained my original self. Interestingly, he has also been through a divorce and seems to be single now. There's a lot of whispering among the staff that Dr. Taylor and Susan might remarry. But I'm content with my life as it is now, so I'm not really thinking about marriage again. Dr. Taylor, who enjoys his freedom, probably feels the same way. Dr. Taylor and I, being so similar. I don't think we'll ever date, but I hope to continue seeing each other at work and remain good friends. Finding a friend with whom you can talk about anything at this age is rare.